For a while, the main tactic used in drug education was telling horror stories about the worst possible consequences of using drugs. The tone of the discussion was shaped by public service announcements and propaganda films that looked a lot like these.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently they dance, innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs.
This is crack. Smoking crack. It's like putting a gun in your mouth and pulling the trigger.
Smoking the soul-destroying reefer, they find a moment's pleasure, but at a terrible price. Debauchery, violence, murder, suicide, and the ultimate end of the marijuana addict. Hopeless insanity.
Any questions?
In other words,
Smoking's bad. You shouldn't smoke. And alcohol is bad. You shouldn't drink alcohol. And as for drugs, well, drugs are bad. You shouldn't do drugs. Are there any questions?
Now, we're not saying we disagree with Mr. Mackey, but what we are saying is that some drug prevention tactics aren't as effective as others. There are real and serious consequences to drugs. But when authority figures are overly general, or they over-exaggerate the consequences, like saying marijuana leads to hopeless insanity, they run the risk of discrediting themselves. The real consequences of drug use will be overshadowed by the fact that they seem like they're just making up stuff.
My parents never talked to me about drugs because I grew up in a really sheltered environment and it really wasn't an issue. But now our society at large is moving away from scaremongering and toward open celebration of drug use, to the extent that marijuana is even promoted on live national television.
I gotta show you something else. They have a thing here called the Incredibowl. I gotta show you how this works. We have a willing participant right here. If you thought this was nice, wait till you see this. Okay, let's see how it works here. This is all part of the puff, pass, and paint. This is where they get their creativity. They just get it right in there, and then they paint.
This doesn't seem like a
Isn't
good idea.
that amazing? It's called the Incredibowl.
You can tell that Anderson Cooper is a little bit hesitant about CNN anchors sounding so enthusiastic. But if we're being honest, they're just celebrating what we've been singing along to in our music for years, in songs like Rockstar by Post Malone.
I've been popping pillies, man, I feel just like a rock star. All my brothers got that gas and they always be smoking like a rock star.
In this presentation, we're gonna take a look at some of the reasons people use drugs, some of the reasons not to use drugs, how to recover from addiction, and how drug use is only a symptom of a deeper problem.
when we hear the word drugs, we typically think of the illegal kind, heroin, cocaine, and in some states, marijuana. But things like Tylenol, NyQuil, and my personal favorite, caffeine, are also drugs. The same kinds of opiates and heroin get repurposed into painkillers and prescribed by doctors. So given the fact that all of these are drugs, we want you to turn to the person next to you and ask this question: what makes something a drug?
In Genesis 2:15, it says that God took Adam and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and to take care of it. Good drugs like vitamins could be considered the result of man cultivating the earth.
But the story of living in a fallen world is almost always the story of taking good things and using them in ways that were not intended to be used. Drugs that have been accepted for legitimate medical purposes are often used in ways that go beyond what they were designed for, both in how they're consumed and in how they're distributed.
I get that bag on the regular. I got a bag on my cellular. Back in the bag of them vegetables. Bag of them cookies, it's medical. Cocaine, codeine, etc. Cocaine and lean is federal. I take off landing on Nebula. As announced when it ends on my schedule.
You get the bag and fumble it. I get the bag and flip it and tumble it. Straight off the lot, 300 cash, and the car came with a blunt in it.
It's easy to just absorb the words and not question them because he sounds so cool. But if we actually stop and examine these lyrics, here's what we see. The line between safe medical drugs and unsafe illegal drugs is not as clear-cut as some might want to think. When Takeoff says the line,
bag of them vegetables,
he's referring to broccoli, which is a term that Dram uses to refer to weed. He says,
bag of them cookies, it's medical.
In other words, taking legal medical marijuana and distributing it illegally. He says,
cocaine, codeine, etc.
Meaning that cocaine and cough syrup are basically interchangeable. You can get high on both, something that this next guy knows a little about.
My lean costs more than your rent. Ooh, your mom still live in the tent. Yeah, still slanging dope in the jets. Huh? Me and my grandma take meds. Ooh, they kick me out the plane off Percocet. Now Lil Pump flying private jet. Lil Pump still stuck that meth. 100 on wrist, sipping on tech.
So he starts with this line, my lean costs more than your rent. In other words, this one particular drug I do requires more money month by month than the house you live in. He also mentions selling meth, using that money to buy expensive things, and also to pay for more drugs for himself. For him, rapping about drugs is a way for him to rap about his status. Whatever used to be going on, well, now he's powerful. Now he's found a way to make money and to buy expensive things. The person who brags like this is trying to prove to us, and maybe even to himself, that he's not helpless, that he's not powerless.
He also mentions getting kicked off a plane for a Percocet. And for those who don't know, Percocet is an opioid painkiller prescribed by doctors and is one of the most commonly abused drugs in our country.
For the past several years, our country has been in the middle of an opioid crisis. The recreational use of drugs like Percocet has led to an epidemic of overdose and death, the likes of which our country has never seen.
The United States is by far the largest consumer of these drugs, using more opioid pills per person than any other country by far in the world. Opioid overdose deaths have quadrupled since 1999 and now account for the majority of fatal drug overdoses. Who would have thought?
This brings us to an important point. Just because something is legal in some cases doesn't necessarily mean it's safe to take it however and whenever we want. The number of accidental overdoses from painkillers is proof of that.
But now for some good news. According to Monitoring the Future, opioid use has actually decreased alongside the use of cigarettes among teens in 2017. So on the whole, only 2% of teens are likely to abuse prescription pain meds. In other words,
we don't do the same drugs no more. We don't do the same drugs. Do the same drugs no more. We don't do the same drugs no more. We don't do the same drugs. Do the same drugs no more. We don't do the same drugs.
Chance is right, because there is a new drug of choice on the market. In 2017, the only behavior that Monitoring the Future saw increase for teens was vaping, which can be related to marijuana use as well. Marijuana use remained consistent, and now 71% of high school seniors don't see it as harmful, even if they themselves aren't using it. So, in our next section, let's take a look at these two smoking habits and some of the brain research on teenagers to help us make wiser decisions about drugs and alcohol in general.